Shalom, brothers and sisters. Grace be unto you and peace from YAHUAH the Father and Yahushua the Messiah, his Son. This is Brother David coming to you again to bring you the Sabbath and the feast days are wrong. This is part 11. This episode is about the Sabbath. It is a sign. You have to mark it. How do you mark this sign? By the new moon. How do you find Yahuwah's Sabbaths? By the new moon. How do you find Yahuwah's feast days? By the new moon. And that's a fact. There's no other way to count the days except for from the new moon. It is your sign. You have to mark it so that you can find his days. Genesis chapter 1, verse 14. And the Mighty One said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days, and for years." So your moon is a sign. Your moon works together with the sun. The moon does not have any light. The moon only reflects the light from the sun. It is a perfect timepiece to find your seasons, 4 quarters, your days, your Sabbaths and your feast days, and your years. There's no other way to find Yahuwah's days except for by the new moon. Sirach chapter 43, verse 6 to 8. It is the moon that marks the changing seasons. You see? That sign, which is the moon, it marks the changing seasons, governing the times. Hey, the seconds, the minutes, the hours, the days, the months, the years, their everlasting sign. Verse 7. For the moon comes the sign of festal days, a light that wanes when it completes its course. Now it's telling you exactly which festal day it is. When you understand the language, if it's waning, it has to be full. So it's going to decrease. It's talking about the Feast of Unleavened Bread and the Feast of Tabernacles. Verse 8. The moon, as its name suggests, renews itself. The Gregorian calendar does not renew itself. Remember, the moon is a mark. It is a sign. You cannot find your days without it. How marvelous it is in its change. A beacon to the hosts of high, shining in the vault of the heavens. Hey, the only way that you can find the time that Yahuwah has created is to look in the sky, not on a calendar. 2 Chronicles chapter 8, verse 12 to 13. Then Solomon offered burnt offerings to Yahuwah on the altar of Yahuwah, which he had built before the porch, and did so according to the daily rule, offering them up according to the commandment of Moses. We're going to have all of the festal days put together right here. For the Sabbaths, the new moons, the 3 annual feasts, the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the Feast of Weeks, and the Feast of Booths. Do you see that, brothers and sisters? The moon marks each one, brothers and sisters. It is the only way to find YAHUAH's days. The moon, as its name suggests, renews itself. Does the Gregorian calendar renew itself? Is the Gregorian calendar rooted in nature? Does the Gregorian calendar go by the moon phases? All three questions are no. The Gregorian calendar is a sun calendar. That's why it comes in from year to year, 10 days too soon. The way the Father created time to be calculated, it had to start from the new moon. Then it goes through all of its phases, as you see here. After it's gone through all of the phases, it turns black again. Then it renews itself and becomes that slither, that crescent of light. And time is counted all over again. That's YAHUAH's way. It's also rooted in nature. All of your seasons are rooted in this calendar that's in the sky. The Gregorian calendar is a sun calendar. If you follow that calendar to find your Sabbaths and your feast days, you're following the gods of that calendar. YAHUAH's calendar speaks of creation. He's the one who puts this in place. Everyone who denies this or try to fight against this is fighting against the Creator. This is how bad it is out here. Everyone is in a strong delusion, believing a lie. The historians, I'm going to prove to you that everyone started from the new moon. Even though they may have had it twisted, they started from the new moon. It was the only way to count the days. All the days are styled favorably, an expression which must indicate a pious hope, not a fact, since the words Ud Kulgal or Umu Limnu, the evil day, are particularly applied to the 7th, 14th, 19th, 21st, and the 28 days. With regard to the reasons which dictate the choice of the 7th, 14th, 21st, and 28 days, two views have been entertained. It has been held in the first place that the evil days were selected as corresponding to the moon's successive changes. Hence, that the seventh day marks the close of the earliest form of the 7-day week, a week bound up with the lunar phases. And here's your reference on the bottom. So even in those days, they came from the new moon. Where the 19th day comes from, who knows? It's something to do with paganism. But they at least knew that you had to look up in the sky to count the days. Do you know in modern society, we have bypassed that. You don't have a moon calendar anymore. Now you have a sun calendar, which is the Gregorian calendar, which is not rooted in the moon at all. Blow up the trumpet in the new moon, in the time appointed, on our solemn feast day. And that's Psalms 81:3. That is a commandment. If you go to part 6, you'll see how many times he said that. Look at the Gregorian calendar. I got the whole year here for you. Look in January. If you blow the trumpets on the first day of the month, because that's the illusion that they're trying to give you. But remember, their months flow from one month to the next. There's no starting point. But if they're saying that Monday is the first day of the month, which would be your new moon's day, you were supposed to do what? You were supposed to go to the temple. You were supposed to worship. There was a sacrifice in those days before our Messiah came. It was a day of feasting. You could travel on that day. No commerce could be done. So if you count from day 1 on January, when you get to day 6, you have Saturday. Hold it. Didn't they say that the 7th day is the Sabbath? How can you have day 1 and yet have your Sabbath on day 6? That's what they're doing. Look at February. When would your Sabbath be here? It should be on Wednesday. Look at March. Same thing, Wednesday. Now look at April. If the 1st is on a Sunday, now you have a Saturday, 7 days. Just to cut the chase, let's go to July. It's the only other month that has the beginning at day 1, and then you have 7 days. What's happening with the rest of the months? It does not fit into the model that's in the scriptures. Because if you blow up the trumpet at the new moon in the time appointed on your solemn feast days, that would be day 1. So if they're saying that day 1, like in March, is on a Thursday, when is your Sabbath going to be? On a Wednesday. How did it get to be on a Saturday? That's how foolish we were. We did not pay attention because we were in a strong delusion, believing a lie, living in this matrix that the white man has created. Assurbanipal in the 7th century promulgated a calendar with a definite scheme of a 7-day week, a regulation of the month by which all men were to rest on days 7, 14, 19, 21, 28. The old minology of Nisan, that's Abib, that made the 2 days of the dark moon, 29 and 30, rest days, so that each lunar month had 9 rest days on which either the sick could be cured, nor a man in difficulty consult a prophet, none might travel, and fasting was enforced. All right, these are pagans that we're talking about here. What I'm trying to show you is that they mark their months by the new moon. Regardless of how twisted their observances are, they still mark their months by the new moon. Why is that? Because there was the only way to mark your month. It had to go through the lunar cycle. You knew that that was a complete month, because moon means month. There's your reference on the bottom. The association of the Sabbath rests with the account of creation must have been very ancient among the Hebrews. And it is noteworthy that no other Semitic peoples, you got that? No other people on the planet, even the Babylonians, had any tradition of the creation in 6 days. It would appear that the primitive Semites had 4 chief moon days. Probably, remember he's saying probably, the 1st, the 8th, the 15th, the 22nd of each month, called Sabbaths, from the fact that there was a tendency to end work before them so that they might be celebrated joyfully. There's your reference on the bottom. As you can see, he has it wrong, because the first day is not a Sabbath. The 8th, the 15th, the 22nd, and the 29th days of the months is a Sabbath. The first day is your new moon's day. You go to part 6, you can see all of the things that you're supposed to do on new moon's day. Here's your creator's calendar. Just so that you can get an idea of what we're talking about, you have new moon's day. It was a day of worship. You were supposed to go to the temple. No commerce was to be done. Sacrifices were made. The trumpets were blown. Afterwards they went home and they had a feast, and they prepared themselves for the 6 working days that was to follow. The second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, and the seventh was the 6 working days, and all of your Sabbaths would come down the line, the 8th, the 15th, the 22nd, and the 29th. Order of creation facts. Remember, they said it was rooted in creation, and we know that one, in the beginning, the sun, moon, and stars in the earth were created. What day was that? It is not listed, so we call it day 0. 2, lights turned on in verse 3. That was the first day of his labor. It is listed. 3, lights are given instructions for keeping time. That's on the 4th day. He created man and woman, and he made other things on the 6th day. And then 5 is the Sabbath, the 7th day, the day of rest. The same model that we had on the calendar that I just showed you is the same model that you have in creation. There was a beginning, a starting point. Then you had 6 working days, and then the 7th day was the Sabbath. It is powerfully urged by the believers in the primitive Sabbath that we find from time immemorial the knowledge of a week of 7 days among all nations. We just showed you some models: the Egyptians, the Arabians, and the Indians. In a word, all the nations of the East. Note, all of the nations of the East, they believed in that 7-week day, or 7-day week, starting from the new moon. You got that? Listen what else he's going to say. Having all ages made use of the week of 7 days, for which it is difficult to account without admitting that this knowledge was derived from the common ancestors, Adam and Eve. That is all speculation. We did not see that in Scripture. We only found that after creation, the only one who rested was YAHUAH, nor did he command anyone else to. But look at what they're getting ready to say. Common ancestors of Adam and Eve, of the human race. The human race were the Indians, the Arabians, and the Egyptians in the primitive days. What about all the rest of them? They're not listed here. The Egyptians are the Africans, the Arabians are what they call the Middle East today, and the Indians is all of those that are to the east of Saudi Arabia, just to give you an idea. They were all black people. Everyone else was excluded here. From this person, the Popular and Critical Bible Encyclopedia, Volume 3, 1904, he's excluding the white folks. Among all early nations, the lunar months were the readiest large divisions of time, and was divided in 4 weeks, corresponding to the phases or the quarters of the moon. In order to connect the reckoning by weeks with the lunar month, we find that all ancient nations observed some peculiar solemnities to mark. You see that word? They marked the day of the new moon. Remember, it is a sign. You have to mark that day, because those are Yahuwah's days. And we know what it is now. You see the one that's called the young? That is your new moon. From there, after the new moon's day has passed, then you start to count to your weeks, your 6 working days to the Sabbath. The waxing crescent to the waxing quarter, 7 days. The waxing gibbous to the full moon, 7 days. If you want to find the feast day, you add the new moon, which is that crescent, the slither of light. Then you have 15 days to the full moon. But when you're counting your Sabbaths, you only count the quarters. That's why the new moon day is a standalone day. Then you have the waning gibbous to the waning quarter, 7 days. The waning crescent to the old, 7 more days. That was 2 more quarters, 2 more Sabbaths. Altogether, we have 4 Sabbaths. Then the moon turns black. And then it renews itself and starts all over again. Tell me something. Who created this? YAHUAH. He told you to follow this. He never instructed you to follow a calendar. Just because you see 6 working days and then the 7th is the Sabbath of rest, you can only find the 6 working days here, not on the Gregorian calendar. It's going to flow from month to month, week to week, year to year, without restarting. The moon has to renew itself. That's why he told you to mark the new moon day. If you are not doing that, you're not on Yahuwah's time. Sabbath and new moon, Rosh Hadesh, both periodically reoccurring in the course of the year. The new moon is still, and the Sabbath originally was, depended upon the lunar cycle. Both date back to the nomadic period of Israel. Originally, the new moon was celebrated in the same way as the Sabbath. Gradually, it became less important. While the Sabbath became more and more a day of religion and humanity, of religious meditation and instruction, or peace and delight of the soul, and produced powerful and beneficent effects outside of Judaism. And there you have it, the Jewish Encyclopedia. Now, the Sabbath was celebrated as the new moon, but the prohibitions for the Sabbath, no servile work can be done, is not included. If you remember why that is because when the new moon comes in, it comes in the evening. If you have a 29-day month, it goes directly into the first day of the month. So you don't have time to prepare. So the Father did not give you those commands. He's in control. The people who are trying to explain this don't have a clue what they're talking about. Jeremiah chapter 6, verse 16 to 19. Here's the important stuff. Thus saith YAHUAH, stand ye in the ways, and see, and ask for the old paths. Don't ask for this new stuff, that Saturday Sabbath. He said ask for the old paths. What we used to do in our nomadic period, when we were one with YAHUAH, where is the good way, and walk therein, and ye shall find rest for your souls. It's the only way you're going to find this rest. But listen what they said. We will not walk therein. Verse 17. Also I set watchmen over you, saying, hearken to the sound of the trumpet. What are you supposed to do on the new moon? Blow the trumpet so that you can mark the day. But they said, we will not hearken. Everything that we're saying today is the same thing that they were saying then. Therefore hear ye nations, and know, O congregation, what is among them. What is among them? Verse 19. Hear, O earth, behold, I will bring evil upon this people. Watch what he's going to do. Even the fruit of their thoughts. That's why the brothers are dealing with the imagination of their own minds, because they will not hearken unto the trumpet. They will not go back to the old paths. They said that we will not walk therein, because they have not hearkened unto my words. They're going through the imagination of their own mind, and they're following the Europeans, nor to my law. They've created their own law, but they rejected it. Verse 20. To what purpose cometh there to me incense from Sheba, and the sweet cane from a far country? Your burnt offerings are not acceptable, nor your sacrifices sweet unto me. Your offerings of money, he doesn't want. Your sacrifices of praise, he says they're nothing to him. Verse 21. Therefore, thus saith YAHUAH, behold, I will lay stumbling blocks before this people, and the fathers and the sons together shall fall upon them. The neighbor and his friend shall perish. You see that, brothers and sisters? You have to get through all the stumbling blocks to find YAHUAH. If you don't stop what you're doing and hunker down and learn everything you can learn about this old path, you're going to be lost. You have to explain this to the next person. You have to give an account on why you believe in this. Verse 22, thus saith YAHUAH, behold, a people coming from the north country, the Europeans. That's who he brought against us, because we wouldn't do what he says. And a great nation shall be raised from the sides of the earth. Verse 23, they shall lay hold on bow and spear. They are cruel. You know who he's talking about. He's describing them, and have no mercy. Their voice roareth like the sea, and they ride upon horses set in array as men for war against thee, O daughter of Zion. Who brought them against us? YAHUAH. Why? Because we refused to keep his Sabbaths and his feast days and his new moons. We wouldn't go back to the old path. We kept following people who were leading us astray. Exodus chapter 31, verse 12 to 14. Let's see why. He's brought these people against us. And YAHUAH spake unto Moses, saying, verse 13, speak thou also unto the children of Israel, saying, verily my Sabbaths, listen, keyword, my, not the European Sabbath. He left this here to be a witness for us. Ye shall keep, for it is a sign. How do you mark this sign? From the new moon, between me and you throughout your generations, that ye may know that I am YAHUAH, that doth sanctify you. Verse 14, ye shall keep the Sabbath thereof, for it is holy unto you. Every one that defileth it shall surely be put to death. For whosoever doeth any work therein, that soul shall be cut off from among his people. And that's a fact. Death. He brought a cruel nation against us. But once he returns, judgment, brothers and sisters. And it begins with the children of Israel. KJV dictionary definition, the word is defile. To make unclean, to render foul or dirty in a general sense. Remember something. He said, you've defiled my Sabbaths. You made them unclean. They are dirty from what you have done. Jubilees chapter 6, verse 37. For this reason the years will come upon them when they disturb, misinterpret the order, and make an abominable day the day of testimony, and an unclean day a feast day. And they will confound all the days, the pure with the unclean, and the unclean day with the pure. For they will go wrong as to the months, and Sabbaths, and feasts, and jubilees. The unification of Scripture is incredible. The prophecies are on point, clear, precise. We have defiled his Sabbaths, his feast days, his new moons. But guess what? We've turned back to him. But if you don't understand everything that is going on here, if you cannot explain this thing like me or even better than I can, you still are lost. You have to stop what you're doing and learn this thing left and right, up and down, because people are going to come after you. Your own household is going to go crazy. Watch and see when you start keeping these Sabbaths correctly. Everyone is going to turn against you. You must be grounded and rooted in his word. Revelation chapter 7, verse 1 to 3. And after these things I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. Note, the gathering is going to take place from the 4 corners of the earth. Verse 2. And I saw another angel ascending from the east, not descending. He's ascending. He's going upwards. He's coming from the earth, having the seal of the living mighty one. And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels, to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea. What did he cry? Hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our mighty one in their foreheads. Are you included in this? Remember what we're looking at. This is right before the gathering. The brothers don't know anything about what they're talking about. Remember, the Father has given them a strong delusion. Their thoughts are twisted. He's telling you, you better get ready. You have to have the seal. But there's not going to be many of us with this seal. Verse 4. And I heard the number of them which were sealed. And there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. Remember something. We're talking about these last days, right before he pours out his bowls of wrath upon the earth. Only 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. Look at verse 5. I want you to read the rest of it for yourself so you can see. I just put this in here for you just for the purpose of this explanation. Verse 5. Of the tribe of Judah were sealed 12,000. No more, no less. There's only going to be 12,000 of the tribe of Judah sealed. The tribe of Judah is not just here in America. It's scattered all over the world. I remember in a prior video, we found out that there was going to be 1 in the city, 2 in the house. Not every house. What is that, like 3 in the city and in the household in that city? That's how small the number's going to be. I wonder why the number's going to be so small. If you look at the arguments that are against the way that YAHUAH counts the days, then you can see. But because most people are in a strong delusion, believing a lie, they will not have the mark, the sign of YAHUAH. Therefore, they cannot receive his stamp. Exodus chapter 31, verse 15 to 17. 6 days may work be done, but in the seventh is the Sabbath of rest, holy, set apart to YAHUAH. Whosoever doeth any work in the Sabbath day, he shall surely be put to death. Do you think he's lying? He is not. How do you find those 6 working days? There is only one way in the Bible that is prescribed for you to find his day of rest. You have to start from the new moon. There's no other way. Listen, the people who are in opposition against this lunar Sabbath always go to the lunar way of counting the days to find their feasts. Then they resort back to the Gregorian calendar to find their Sabbaths. Do you see that any place here? Verse 16. Wherefore the children of Israel shall keep the Sabbath to observe the Sabbath throughout their generations for a perpetual covenant. How can we do that? We forgot. Verse 17. It is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever. Is that Gregorian calendar going to last forever? This sign has been from creation. After the Europeans have been destroyed, that sign will still be there, the new moon. Even when he creates and creates the heavens and the earth, he's still going to mark your days by the new moon. After that 1,000-year period and all of our enemies have been destroyed. What is wrong with us? I'll tell you what is wrong. They use witchcraft. We have television. We have commentaries. We have visual aids. Then you got the pastors, the leaders, the guys in the nice robes who pretend that they're working for YAHUAH, but they're wolves in sheep's clothing. They're in a disguise. The only way that you can see who they truly are is if you are grounded and rooted in his word. And because you are not, you will be deceived again. You can't talk a good game with this one. You cannot play with this one. You cannot front with this one. For all of those who know YAHUAH and have his spirit, we will see right through you immediately. But for those who are seeking him with their heart, their mind, and their soul, that means all of you. He says, if you seek, you will find. Brothers and sisters, this is part 12. If you know of any arguments against this lunar solar way of counting the days that I have not addressed here, I would like for you to give them to me. And if you don't give me any arguments that you find, it shows that you're not really searching and you're not really studying. You're just playing around. We need to address every issue about this so that we can destroy the enemies of YAHUAH, for we are the ones who hold the sword to fight against the lies of those who are in a strong delusion, believing the lies of this world. I'm going to say continue to part 13, even though I don't have it ready yet. or have a premise to go on. I'm expecting that maybe one or maybe two of you may do the work and bring me some information so that we can learn more about the way YAHUAH counts the days. Shalom. Continue to part 13.